All right.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hey everybody, Rich here. Grateful, recovering compulsive overeater. You know, and for me, the food is just a symptom. I had a lot of symptoms. I qualify for other 12-step fellowships, of which I won't get into here. But I had a lot of symptoms. The real problem is what's going on inside my head. You know, my brain telling me I'm not good enough. People don't like me. I don't fit in. I used food and other things to quiet those feelings, and it didn't really work. You know, and then I like I said, I qualified for other 12-step fellowships, and I started in other 12-step fellowships, but I was calling myself clean and sober, but compulsively overeating every day. And still going to those meetings and still collecting chips and coins, etc. I came into this program, actually not the first time. When I first got sober back in 2002, I went to an OA. I knew I had a problem with food, and I went to an OA meeting at that point, and I got the Brown Book. And I put it on my recovery shelf, and I may have looked at it once or twice, but the spine never cracked, so I know that I didn't do much, and I didn't go to any other OA meetings. I went to those other meetings, but I was absolutely miserable. I reached a bottom with food, and even though I was in that other program, I was at a bottom, and I needed this program, and I came into these rooms in July of 2012, and my first abstinence didn't start till about a month later, till about August 30th of 2012. That's I still count it I call it my time in program. So I'm coming up on 9 years in program. I don't have 9 years of abstinence. I have my current abstinence is probably, I don't time it exactly anymore, but it's probably around 3 years. But anyway, let me get into a little bit of background. Like I said, I always felt uncomfortable in my own skin, and I always sought to escape that, and I did so with other things. But even, I know this is food, and it's a food story, but, when I was a kid, and food is kind of part of this. I remember my grandmother gave each grandchild $25 to spend down the shore in the summer. And this was the 70s, and that was plausible that should last a little while. But I spent the first $25. I spent it the first day on comic books and sugary sweets, and then continued. Then I stole money from the other envelopes from my brothers and sisters and from my cousins, because I needed to buy more. I could never get enough of it, and with food, I'm not like bulimic or anorexic or anything like that, but I always had an unhealthy relationship with food. I remember, I would eat to the point of getting sick, get sick, and then eat some more, that was not uncommon for me. Other stuff that it talks about, like taking food out of the trash, I did that. I never, if other people left stuff on their plate, that was fair game, and all kinds of crazy behaviors with food. But, like I said, I came in through other programs, and my sobriety date in that other place is July 23rd, 2002. And that's when I first started dealing with the steps and first started thinking about recovery. But food was the last hurdle. And the struggle with food. And when I came into that other place, my food use just skyrocketed, and they sometimes call it a sober belly. And I definitely got a sober belly, and got to the point, in my other recovery where I was, essentially in full relapse. I wasn't, using their substance of choice, but I was acting out on character defects. I was absolutely miserable. And then I found my way into a meeting in Philadelphia, and I got to go back to gallery for myself. Okay, so I found a meeting in Philadelphia, on Recovery on Rittenhouse. That is still my home group. And I remember going to that meeting, and the people in that room told me that they would love me until I loved myself. They told me to keep coming back, and I will never forget that. And the feeling that I got at OA, that not that I don't, I do belong in those other places, and I do get a lot out of those other places, but the feeling that I got, the love that I got from the people in this program just was, beyond belief. And I got a sponsor in this program, and I worked these steps. And, that's what I like to talk about, my journey through the 12 steps. The first step for me was a many years journey, and figuring out that I was powerless over things. And like I said, the food was the most difficult thing to accept powerlessness over. I could accept powerlessness over those other things, but like the food, you got to eat, right? And the problem is that I did not have a healthy relationship with food, and I had to come into this program. I had to accept powerlessness over food, and had to accept that my life was unmanageable, even from food. I have a friend in this program, and she says that, and she also qualifies for other 12-step fellowships, and she says that, food, it's like you have to let the tiger out of its cage 3 times a day, and that's a struggle, and that's why we have abstinence. It's why we have a food plan, and the second step for me was, like I was raised a Catholic, and I'm definitely not proselytizing the Catholic religion. Different religions, different spiritualities work for different people. But what didn't work for me was that Catholic punishing God. If I disobeyed, the nuns drummed it into me when I was a child. If I disobeyed the 10 Commandments, I was going to hell. And I wasn't very comfortable with that concept. In my second step experience, I came to believe in a loving, caring God. A mother, a father, a friend, a guiding force, and those ideas resonated with me, and I got a lot of inspiration. Also, I know we use the AA literature. I got a lot of inspiration out of the chapter We Agnostic in the Big Book, and how it explains, in very simple terms, that there's something out there, there's some power out there that I can tap into, greater than myself, and even the power in these rooms, us acting together is a power greater than myself. And, so then could I do the next thing? Could I turn my will and my life over to the care of that higher power? And yes, I could. Interestingly, I went to a Catholic retreat. It's called, some people here may know, from the Philadelphia people, may have heard of the Men of Malvern. I'm a man of Malvern. Fathers and sons go to this spiritual Catholic program, and there's a point. There's a lot of spiritual activities, but there's a point where you can do. Most guys do a confession with the priest, and I asked the priest if I could do my third step, if I can say the third step prayer, and I used the prayer from the Big Book, and I really meant it, And then the priest challenged me to continue to say that prayer, and to really take that decision to trust God, to trust higher power. And I did that, and then my fourth step, taking a look at my inventory and my resentments and my fears and my conduct and, my relationship with food. I had to take a look at that, and I had to take inventory, take stock of the goods. It was a cathartic experience, and then the fifth step, for me, I did my fifth step. Actually, I've done a couple of them, but, one that particularly resonates with me was down at the Jersey Shore, in front of the ocean, and talking to my sponsor and discussing my patterns of behavior and trying to identify what they were and what my character defects were. And I remember him at the end, he asked me, is there anything else? Is there some deep, dark secret? And he told me his deep, dark secret. And there was something, that I shared with him and I was able to let it go, and I do the same thing when I take another man through the steps. I share my secret with them, in efforts to get them to hopefully open up. And then the sixth and the seventh step, the sixth step helped me prepare for the seventh step, where I get down on my knees and I ask, and I don't always get down on my knees, but I ask for a character defect to be removed, big ones for me, is impatience and intolerance. So I pray and I ask for patience and tolerance, when I'm dealing with other people, when I'm driving, and then the eighth and the ninth step, and the eighth step helped me prepare for the ninth step. And, I just want to talk about one, and also, actually, I should also say with the ninth step for me, it was more than just saying, I'm sorry, it was about making, righting the wrong, and sometimes that involved financial restitution. I owed financial restitution to a job that I held. I owed financial restitution to my father. But the amends that really sticks out in my mind, and Steve may know this story. I lost my sister, and she had her own demons, and she took her life. And but I had made amends with her, and I'll always remember what she said to me. When I got to the end of the amends, and I said, Donna, what can I do to make this up to you? I explained to her all the things that I had done to her when we were children, and I asked her, I said, what can I do to make this up for you? And she told me that she was so proud of me and that she just wanted me to keep doing what I'm doing. She said, loved the fact that I found these rooms and, how the changes that were taking place in my life, and just keep doing what I was doing. And I take great comfort in that, in her loss. I know that when she left this planet, she knew that I loved her, and I know that she loved me, and that gives me great comfort. And then the 10th step for me is kind of like a daily guide. I don't do that nightly inventory that it talks about, although I do periodically take inventory. But mostly it's like a conscience, like I know when I'm about to do something wrong, I know it, my 10th step kicks right in, and hopefully I can promptly make amends. I don't always promptly make amends, but I usually get there. It happens a lot at work. And, the 11th step for me, I used to always say that the 11th step for me was all about prayer. I'm not very good at meditation, and I'm still not very good at meditation, but, 2020 has been a very, I'm like terminally unique. I'm the only one affected by the pandemic. I'm the only one who lost his job in the pandemic. I'm the only one that's affected by the political unrest, that's affected by the civil unrest of the situations that are going on in our world. I'm the only one, right? So it's been a lot about meditation for me. I've had to quiet my mind and listen for a message from higher power into how I'm going to live my life, how I'm going to go forward. The third step also applies here, especially with the job loss. I applied the third step to it. I did what I needed to do. I applied for unemployment, hit the pavements, did what I had to do, and eventually secured another job. I'm much happier now. I'm doing something that's fulfilling. I wasn't being fulfilled at the job that I lost, and I'm actually okay financially. I thought that there was a lot of financial insecurity, but I'm actually better off now because I'm getting a pension from the old job, as well as making not quite what I was making at the old job, but I'm making a pretty good amount at the new job. So, I'm doing okay. I trusted higher power, and things worked out. And the 12th step for me is the miracle of this program. It's primarily working with sponsees. I work with sponsees, and I take other men through the steps. It's really important to me. And I'm like, this is a men's meeting. I primarily sponsor men. I am open to sponsoring women that are not attracted to men, and also people alternative, non-binary, I'm open to that, that's what it's all about for me, is working with others. That's how I keep this thing, by working with others. And, so I want to talk about, a little bit about what my life is like now. I'll give you like a little statistics. When I first started looking at my weight issues, I was at about 265 pounds. I'm now at 185, so I'm maintaining an 80-pound weight loss. Thank you. And, and even more so than that is I have peace of mind. I have serenity because of this program. I also should say that, sometimes you need outside help, and I definitely needed some outside help. Initially, when I first came into this program in 2012, I had a very simple food plan, what they call in our literature the 301 plan, 3 meals a day, 1 day at a time, and that wasn't. And also, I stuck with only beverages that had diet before the name and or no calorie, and eventually that wasn't working for me. I guess it's a relapse. Those diet beverages, those sugary sweet diet beverages, were becoming a real problem for me. For one thing, I wasn't sticking to it. Occasionally I was mixing in the and sometimes eventually became often mixing in the non-diet variety of those beverages. And, so I had to take a look at that, and I had to eliminate that entirely from my diet. And now I drink primarily water, and I have I don't quite weigh and measure, I calorie count, and that's just what works with me. I had to,
Rich, 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I had to get with a nutritionist that's just for me, and we had to come up with a plan. We had to come up with a strategy, and I have an app on my phone where I keep track of the calorie count. Like I said, I don't quite measure my food, which is good. I think that's fantastic for people who do, but I just keep a general idea of how many calories I'm taking in, and I keep it under a certain amount. And other advice I got was to keep myself well fed throughout the day. It doesn't necessarily mean 3 meals 1 day at a time. There is room in my food plan for 1 to 2 optional snacks. My nutritionist helped me realize that that if I'm not fed correctly, that's when I tend to overeat. So if I have a small lunch and I don't have a snack in the afternoon, then I tend to overeat at dinner. And so I had to take a look at that, and I had to seek professional help. And that's just what worked for me. And I just want to say, how good my life is now. I am doing well at the new job, and the promises that it talks about in the AA Big Book, have and are coming true for me. I intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle me. And I realize that God is doing for me what I could not do for myself. Financial insecurity has left me. I'll be honest, I cannot tell a lie. There was a little bit of financial insecurity kind of crept back in, when I initially lost my job, but I trusted higher power and things worked out. And, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful to be a part of. And I just want to say that how much I really love and need this program. Like I said, I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but, I qualify for other places about other things, but I can need OA. I need to talk about the food, and I'm so glad that this program exists. And I'll tell you what, my brown book now does have a broken spine, as does my my OA 12 and 12, as does my AA 12 and 12 as well. Because it's our literature. It's the program, it's the steps that keep me sane, that keep me in this program 1 day at a time. And I just want to shut up by saying I love you all, and I know I'm not quite at 20 minutes, but that's all I got. I love you all. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Rich.